all a hype? Do people actually need to get the H1N1 vaccination?
You know, I'm afraid to answer that question either way, because I think that, you know, the people that should get it, that feel it's important to get, they should go and get it. But I also think that it is interesting that everywhere you go now, you see those Purell hand sanitizers. They are literally everywhere. And so in a way it's nice that you can, you know, make sure that your hands are always clean when you can't wash them. But on the other hand, you know, we forget that each and every time we try to disinfect ourselves that much, we actually strengthen the virus. We actually provide a way for that virus to become resistant. So in a way, we try to disinfect ourselves, but we're only making ourselves more vulnerable to more powerful strains of these types of flu viruses each year that we, you know, try to prevent it. So I think there is a price to be paid for going too far. Maybe we are going a little too far.
Absolutely. And, you know, with all these technological advances, it is very interesting to me that something like the flu, a simple virus that we have contained years ago, has now become a pandemic and people are dying. And how is this possible if we are so advanced in our studies and things like that? So now let's move from healthcare to business. There's actually been something very big in the news. Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, as we all know, has purchased Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad for $34 billion. Now, why this purchase is a big deal is, one, it's the biggest purchase or biggest acquisition that Berkshire Hathaway has made, but also it's not necessarily a money-making piece. He's investing in the U.S. economy's future. And I think that that's very interesting because it shows a couple of different things. In 1895, I believe it was, J.P. Morgan did something similar. They gave $62 million of gold to the U.S. Treasury because the U.S. Treasury fell below $100 million. So you look at Berkshire Hathaway and you compare it to the J.P. Morgan of 1895, and now that you see that there is a company or a person out there that is willing to reinvest in the U.S. economy. The other thing that I think is interesting is Warren Buffett is I believe, 70 plus, and you look at something, I mean, he's not looking to make a quick buck. He's actually looking to leave a legacy for his company and, again, to reinvest in America, which I think is brilliant.
It's not too different than what T. Boone Pickens did during the election. I draw a parallel there because, if nothing else, Warren Buffett's acquisition is a resounding endorsement of basically the belief that America can still prosper and return to its place of #1 status in the global economy. President Obama wanted us to get us there. He invested with stimulus dollars in the country's infrastructure. Here's a purchase and acquisition being made about a railroad. We're not talking about, you know, shipping. We're not talking about airlines. We're talking about a very rudimentary, basic form of transport.
Absolutely, and you brought up a good point. You know, it's the railroad. It is something that has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's almost, aside from the Pony Express, the first mode of transportation. And you look at Berkshire Hathaway, and they've always invested in brick and mortar type of companies. And now he is investing this in the railroad. And I think that that's fascinating, and I, you know, wish him the best, and I definitely want to follow that to the end, because I think that if this is truly going to help the economy, it's going to do so in indirect ways.
I think it's absolutely vital to get the right kind of investors in to help kickstart some of these industries back to a point where they can be successful industries again.
Absolutely, it's philanthropy at its best. It's he's being philanthropic to the United States of America.
How's this for a headline? Women are overtaking men in the United States. This is from Sphere.com, some fascinating statistics about how far women have come in the last several decades. Some of these were just mind-boggling to me. I mean, I read them and I know that they were advancements we've made, but this is really interesting. Did you know there are double the number of single women now purchasing homes in America than single men?
No, I did not know that.
Think about that. That's pretty big, right? Women now account for 30% of math PhDs. That's up from 5% in the 1960s.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive. On average, women read 9 books versus men who only read 4. See, this is a story I would have done for Ramesh because he loves these kind of stories, and he's always telling me that women are going to basically obsolete men in the next 50 years, but we'll see. We'll see if he's watching at home today and appreciating this story. What the article is saying here is that women have become and are becoming the more dominant gender, and that's for a variety of reasons. For one, they're far more independent. They are economically far better off than they used to be, although the article also says that we still only earn 70 cents for every dollar a man makes. So there's still some disparity there to go. But girls growing up today in a post-feminist environment are told they can do and be whatever they want in life.
You know, I agree with you. I'm all for women and the women's movement. I do think that women have made great advances, and I want to go back to they're very simple things. I think women are more organized than men. I think women have, in some way, more of a focus than men. And all of that relates and goes back to women getting more degrees and women being able to stick through a PhD course. And one of the things that I love to look at on CNN is, you know, the top 40 CEOs and things like that. And women are part of that. You know, you look at, you know, Pepsi and Hewlett-Packard and eBay. All of these large Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 companies have women CEOs.
To your point, 4 out of every 10 women are now their family's primary breadwinner.
So if women are going to be more successful than men, then we obviously have to learn how to live longer so that we can actually supersede you and beat you guys out. So I'm an avid reader of Men's Health, and Men's Health has actually come up with a couple of ways where we men can actually try to add some years to our life. Some of this is, you know, if you go to a restaurant and you're asked super salad, salad is definitely the way to go. And why is that? Well, to eat raw vegetables is actually more nutritious than to eat a soup or to eat vegetables that are sauteed or anything like that. Some of the other ones is, if you have a body mass index or a BMI of over 25%, that's something that can reduce your life by about 3 years. So if you're in that boat, please get to the gym. Crack open a fresh can of nuts. I don't know if you guys like to eat pistachios or walnuts, but those obviously very much so help. And there's a common misconception that these nuts are high in fat. But fat is actually good. You need good fat. You need good cholesterol. You don't need bad cholesterol, and these nuts have good cholesterol. Some of the other things, the last two are keeping a good network of friends. Can you imagine that having more friends can increase your life? On a side note, that's not Men's Health. This is a personal tip, is smiling and laughing actually also increases your longevity. And the last one is there is life after retirement. People that work themselves to death literally work themselves to death. So to know that there is life after retirement is certainly going to add actually 7.5 years to your life. So maybe you can bring that back to your gender and talk to them a little bit about that.
Well, you know, I'm actually, this story is a wonderful story because there's at least 2 topics I know we've covered before on Darshan which tie very close to it. One is, for anyone that is in a marriage where there is some good verbal sparring, that's actually helping both spouses live longer. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
So, I mean, that means my parents should, live 1,000 years because they're always sparring. But the point is, if you're very passive in your marriage or in your relationship, then you're not engaging that passion.